We got some big news on the Ivan Demidov front, as despite him getting a bad penalty, which has led to him being benched before, despite Kuznetsov not playing in this game, which has usually led to Demidov also not getting much ice time, Ivan Demidov played near his season high in ice time today, including finally getting used on the power play and in an empty net situation late in the game. We have some big developments on that front that we got to dive into. Plus, Jesse, we got to talk a bit about Habs versus Devils and some specific things that we have to look forward to. And finally, we got to talk about some 5v5 stats that, well, they paint Montreal in a very interesting light, so stick around for all that coming up on this episode of Habs Digest. Bit of a surprise live stream here today, Jesse. I know we got some scheduling stuff tonight, so there won't be any post-game video, but I'm excited to do something different every once in a while.
Yeah, doing the impromptus and doing kind of the game, obviously the little bit of a warm up kind of to that. Like, Josh, what do you think? Like, in the future, we need to do a watch along in the near future. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. We got to do some watch alongs. We got to get a lot more interesting stuff going. I'm down for a watch along. There are some Sunday games coming up not too far later in the season, Jesse. Yeah, I'm down for an evening game as well. There could be a Sunday game where people can tune in. Let us know your thoughts, evening or Sunday game down below, because we would love to do something like that. Because we're watching the games pretty much every day as well. So yeah. Leave us your feedback. But guys, we got to get right into the video. I want to thank the people in the chat, first of all, for being here so early in this surprise one. We got Daddy Dino saying, push that like button, everyone. That would help us out so much if you hit the like button. Thank you, Daddy Dino. We got Sister Mercy saying it as well. We got other channel members, Sam Sav04, what's up? Joseph Donovan, holy crap, we're live. Yes, we are, Joseph. Not very often you get us live on a Thursday. Bob Waller saying, can't believe I'm home for a live. And we got some good news for you, Bob. And George. Hi, everyone. Hope you're all having a great time. Josh, you're right about how great Guhle has been playing. Hart Trophy contender with the heart. Oh, I love that. Yeah, Guhle's been great, Jesse. I think before we... hi, Frank, as well. Before we get into this, a little note on Guhle. We'll talk about him a bit later, but, Guhle is George's boy. We know that, so it has been great to see him doing well.
It is. And I was so heartbroken, as I know you were too, George, seeing his goal taken off the board. You saw how much that kind of meant to him. Like, for me, Josh, like for years, when I was kind of envisioning the next captain for the Montreal Canadiens, like after, like I was like, it's got to be Brendan Gallagher, right? Like the heart and soul that he plays with. Obviously, there was kind of some injuries, different things where it just wasn't meant to be. But he's one of the leaders on this team. Like, I really like that, obviously, he got a goal in the other game, but the one that was kind of turned away, like a really impressive thing was how, I know it turned out being offside, but that pass from Anderson, he was kind of leading them quite a bit. And the way that he was able to really kind of control, and really control that puck, like that's not a given. You see a lot of 50-50, they're going to maybe bumble that puck, but Gallagher, he doesn't just have that heart, George, he's got a little bit of that skill as well. So if there's one guy that we really want to see continue, that's still an unsung hero for this team, it's Brendan Gallagher.
I was, I'm really impressed so far this season with, we've been talking for years about how he can't really get the puck off the ice as well anymore. This year, his shot has looked kind of deadly, so really excited for that. But we got some news to get into. This is not a long live stream today. Like I said, some scheduling stuff for later, so no post game. But thank you all for being in here for the live. Frank, we got Image One Nation. We got Joseph. You didn't get your days mixed up. Image saying Guhle is all heart. Guhle, my boy, I have 73 edition of Guhle's jersey. Tell us what big is. I'm sneaking in during work. Daryl, the big news is Ivan Demidov. If you want to rewind to the top of the show, you'll get a bit of a spoiler, but we'll talk about it in more detail later. But let's get right into the news here, Jesse. The first thing I want to show is something from Jason Paul. Said, what did you expect? After a healthy distance into the 2024-25 NHL season, here is what 5v5 performance looks like. Many of the usual suspects in their places. Now, you may look at this list, and this graph, and you may say, holy crap, that is one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. And you would be right. However, Montreal is still learning. Their young defense is still learning. We played a few games without probably our best defensive defenseman in Cayden, Guhle. Yes, I think he might even be better, at least more impactful defensively than Savard at this point. He's been blocking shots, getting hits like crazy. Number of games without Guhle. It's a young team learning the system. They've been improving game over game. But Jesse, despite the defense looking bad and that being what most people are taking from this, to me, what I take from this is that vertical line you see is league average offense, and Montreal's pretty much bang on. They're above teams like Vegas, above teams that signed a bunch of incredible free agents in Nashville, above a team like Boston, like Calgary. To me, seeing that, even a team like Minnesota, way better, right? Seeing that, to me, has been my main takeaway from this, to have a bit of positivity looking at this graph.
And it's something that you can really build on kind of going forward. And you mentioned it, like the young decor. Obviously, Guhle's having better defensive stats right now than Savard. That is kind of backing it up. But this is kind of showing like why the Montreal Canadiens are focusing. They're much more analytics driven than they were in the past. It's not just the eye test, but it's also the numbers that are feeding this to the Habs management, to Martin St. Louis. Like, this is what we need to focus on. And for the last 2 games, they have been better defensively.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had a couple, obviously, blowout losses, which is kind of, obviously having a major impact on this as well. But if we're not, it's for this young Habs team to kind of figure out, like, are those blowouts, is that kind of an anomaly, or is that a little bit more kind of the norm? I think they're going to tighten it up. They know what they need to do, and it's about kind of securing that defensive part of the game, knowing that the offense generally will come when you're doing your defense well, right? So that's kind of the double part of this that actually is really encouraging. So, I mean, there's some great things to take away from this. The fact that, for a team that has been, quite anemic offensively for a while, to see that we can succeed at this, it's more about just kind of getting that proper structure. And obviously it's a young defensive core as well, as represented here. So for me, there's a lot of positives to take away from this.
Yeah, and like I know every game counts. You can't just erase games from history. It's not how this works. But I do wonder what this would look like without those 2 big blowout losses. Because to me, like, while Montreal's defensive coverage has not looked great in other games as well, outside of those 2 big blowouts, like, they looked abnormally bad, like worse than last season bad. And I wonder what, there's probably a few things contributing to that. But if you take those out, like, I mean, I still don't think they're good. I still don't think they're in the middle of the pack or anything. But I think they'd look a little bit better. I saw image once, like, holy crap, that's one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. Literally what I said. Yeah, I think he's copying what I said. But yeah, the offense there is really amazing. And like you said, this team has looked at times like they haven't been able to score. And we'll dive into their leading scores later and how they compare to the Devils. But, like, see them this high up on this list so far in terms of offense, like, I mean, look, I know it's not a lot of insane teams below them, but like Montreal is right there on par with the Devils, with the Panthers, with the Avalanche, with the Predators. They're better than Vegas. Like, I don't know. I think there's some positivity to glean from this. So I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments there in the live chat, or even in the comments down below if you're watching this as a video after, because I think like that offense thing might be the biggest thing to take away from this. So I'm going to run back to the chat really quick, Jesse, because we got some stuff to get into, but we want to get through this pretty quick here today. I want to go through the chat. We got George saying, Jesse, it was brutal to see the offside thing. I'm sure he's a great leader, loves hanging out with the young guys. Yeah, for sure. That's one thing that Galley does very well. Winter Classic Galley jersey is my best jersey. That is nice. People love my Patrick Waugh jersey with the Stanley Cup patch, but I kind of like the Centennial Price jersey. I don't know. I only have 2 red jerseys, and neither are in Quebec City with me. One's Galchenyuk, the other one's just a plain blank one. But Jesse, you're a fan of the baby blue one though, aren't you? I think.
I was a fan of the baby blue, but you know what? I'm gonna have to get that red one with the Habs Digest on the back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be cool. Well, we get some cool stuff, I'm sure, as we move on. That boy's more soul and heart. Galley bleeds Hab. George says, I have 3 Galley jerseys, the red, white, and dark blue, and I need the light blue next. That's really good. Image saying, get the Winter Classic. He was first star with 2 goals and just got back from injury. That is very, very interesting. All right. So we got a lot of people asking about Demidov. For the people asking when he's going to be with the Habs, it's not going to be till next season, almost certainly, because his contract's not up till the end of May, unless Montreal makes the Stanley Cup Finals, in which case maybe he'd play. I don't know if that's even allowed. However, we do got good news on him, but we'll get into that. Actually, you know what? Let's just get into it right now, because that's what we want to talk about. We'll talk about Habs Devils after. I want to show you guys this. This is huge. So Habs Nation coach Frenchie tweeted this out, and I watched some of the highlights of it. There was nothing like super spectacular. He made a lot of very solid plays today. He was open in the slot a few times, and I saw a lot of people saying, man, imagine if Lane Hutson was playing with him, because his own defensemen weren't even passing him the puck when he was wide open in the slot today. I digress. Here are Demidov's stats from today's game. In the third period alone, he logged 6 minutes and 58 seconds. He had a shot on goal. He played time on the power play and in a 6-on-5. He played almost 16 minutes today, Jesse. Over 2 minutes on the power play, 3 shots on goal. He played a solid overall game, couldn't capitalize on his opportunities. But the biggest thing for me today was that Evgeny Kuznetsov was not playing. And in the past, Rottenberg has not tended to like to play Demidov too much without having Kuznetsov out there with him. But today, Demidov was back on that third line, and he played 16 minutes on the ice. And in Kuznetsov's place, he played over 2 minutes on the power play. Like, this to me is a genuinely really big revelation for Ivan Demidov, because we talked so much about how he'd get benched for the little things, but this was one of the first games where it looked like he worked his butt off. He was creating some chances. He didn't even have to score all the goals, get a bunch of assists or anything, but the team relied on him with Kuznetsov, one of their veterans, their captain, out of the game. This is I hope that this is a turning point and that this is a big step for him.
I don't want to jinx it, but is Roman Rottenberg starting to come around to Camp Demidov, right? Because, I mean, in that third period, he almost got his average of about, he averages about 8 minutes per game. That in the third period alone.
Yeah.
As we know, Josh, like, if Demidov normally takes a penalty, bench for the game.
Mm-hmm.
If Kuznetsov can't play, guess what, Demidov, you're bench for the game. But the fact that he was getting nearly 60 minutes in this game is absolutely huge for Ivan Demidov for his development. That's the big thing. We're wondering, like, is he going to get the time to play in the KHL? Like, we need that. We're waiting for him. He's the, savior of our franchise, but we need Ivan Demidov playing hockey, what he does best to make this happen. So not only is this big for him, this is big for the Montreal Canadiens. It's big for SKA. So obviously it's just so amazing to see, right, that like that trust is starting to come. It's slowly kind of coming. He's earned it. He's really had to go through the ringer to be able to get this. But again, like having that time out on 6-on-5, out on the power play, especially in the third period, what this is indicating to us is that Roman Rottenberg is starting to trust Ivan Demidov, which is so big just for his future and for his impact that he will have in Montreal, because he needs that time. He needs that reps, so this was absolutely phenomenal to see today.
You know what? We were talking about a Roman Rottenberg quote from before the season started yesterday, and we didn't show it in the video, and I think this might be a good time to show it. So I was looking back through my old quotes, and this one was just happened to still be saved, and I wanted to show you guys this. By the way, hi Ronnie from Norway. That's very far. And also, yeah, shout out to the Montreal Victoire jerseys. They're very, very cool. I love the cream-colored ones. They're nice. However, this is from Rottenberg before the season. When Ivan proves his case and will play in the first lines of SKA to score goals, as he does now in the Russian youth team, it will be a huge plus for everyone. There's no point in going to the fourth line of Montreal or even the AHL, where they can break their arms and legs. It's a tough league. So I just find it interesting to go back to, like, before the season, he was saying no point in him playing on the fourth line. He's going to get those reps. He's going to get those goals. And, when you hear that kind of talk from the coach, it felt like going into this season, they were saying all the right stuff. And the benchings came at suspicious times after Demidov reportedly turned down contract extensions. But to see this finally sort of proven to be true, like, SK wants to win games. They're one of the best teams in the league for a reason. And they lost today 5-2. And, but in this loss, they were trying to get back into the game. And who was the guy that they were deploying to try and get back into that game? I think that is like, it's not just that he was getting power play time. 6-on-5 is great, but they were leveraging him because they know of his, like, what his ability is to create opportunities, not only for his line mates, but for anyone else on the team. And so, again, it is a bit of trust, but I think also Ivan, you got to assume, too, that he's doing something behind the scenes as well, because just based on play on the ice, we know Roman's been incredibly inconsistent. What if Ivan is just, working his butt off the ice, too, which I'm sure he is, like, every single day? Like, I don't know. Maybe he's just impressing them so much. Some people theorizing maybe, oh, what if he signed another contract? I don't think that's true. But no, that's the thing. I don't know. I can speculate forever, but Jesse, I think that he's doing a lot of the right things, both on and off the ice, I would assume, to get this kind of treatment from Roman.
Yeah, and we know that he's just a gym rat. He likes to be there all the time. And this is why it's so amazing that we have this young player, because his character's really been shining through of late. The fact that he hasn't been getting much ice time, even though he's one of the best players, obviously, in the KHL. Yeah. But he never let that kind of get to him. Exactly. Like, he still stayed positive, kind of humble, hardworking, but still kind of maintaining that confidence as well, which is a hard thing to do. It's easy to get a situation like you're good, but you're not getting played, to kind of question yourself, like, what am I doing wrong? Should I kind of change things up? But he's really kind of stayed true to him. And again, this is showing why the Montreal Canadiens drafted him. Not only does he have the skill, but we know with the Montreal Canadiens, you need more than just the skill these days to be drafted. You need that, and you need the right attitude to go along with it. And that's one of the things that I'm just the most impressed by. Like, this guy is a really likable, positive guy. He's a gamer, doesn't mind throwing a little bit of shade at Slav when it's the right time, but he's just a happy-go-lucky, like, really nice person who's amazing at hockey, who knows how to keep a solid attitude and be ready for when it's his time to shine, because that's, you're just playing in a Roman Rottenberg hand. You start to kind of get down on yourself. You're not playing as well. And then, your game could kind of slip. And then obviously that's a vicious circle from there. You're getting less ice time as a result. But for him to kind of go through, like, this wasn't an easy situation for him to be producing at the clip. Like, we hype him up, Josh, all the time. We're not hyping him up enough for the amount of production that he's done in his limited ice time. This is unreal. Like, if you were to tell us kind of going the season, these are the obstacles that he would face. Here's how he's surpassing them. Here's what he's doing despite all this adversity. Like, we're used to that in Montreal, so we need those players that can kind of rise up to those challenges when they kind of come up and pass with absolutely flying colors. Like what he's doing right now is absolutely so big. And the big thing about that, though, is you keep being that way, you're going to get that trust. You're going to get that love, even with Kuznetsov not playing, right? Getting a little bit of that time there. Like, this is a huge shift. Now, we know with Roman Romberg, it's been such a mixed bag. Like, we don't know what to expect kind of next game, right? But it's going to be, you have to feel like these are positive steps that you can really build upon. Just because Roman Romberg's a little bit all over the place sometimes doesn't really take it away from Ivan Demidov. But we have to hope and believe that this is something that he can really build upon in the future. And, our fans here, we're going to be here to report you on that.
For sure. We're going to be keeping up to date on all that kind of stuff. I'm really, really, really excited to see what comes next and to see if this kind of indicates maybe an uptick in his overall ice time, more consistent ice time. I would love that. I see Roderick Murray saying, any news on Line? Not yet. He doesn't have his big brace anymore, so that's good, but that was a few weeks ago, I think. So we'll just wait and see. I'm just kind of not holding my breath. I'm assuming after Christmas, sometime in early January, but yet to be seen. But Jesse, we got a super chat from George Mayer himself, and he follows it up by saying, important question. On one of our Facebook Marketplace groups, someone has a signed Galley playing card with a swatch from one of his jerseys. It's been up for 3 weeks. What's a good offer? Well, George, that's tough to say. When it comes to hockey cards, like, I was in that market for a while. I've looked at the trading card game for a while, different types of games and stuff, and it really depends on the rarity of the card. Your best bet, actually, can I get that website up? Just because, George, you've been a supporter for so long. We're gonna go a bit off topic here. I think this is the website. Oh yeah, it's this one here. Yeah, George. So if you can find the specific name for the card, and like if you can get like the actual name and the year and all this stuff, you can go to this website that I just sent in the chat, and that'll show you all the recent sales of that same card on eBay. And it's only the ones that have sold, because you can ask for whatever the heck you want, right? But this is only the cards that have sold. So maybe look at those prices. If they're around 10, 15 bucks, you can offer 10, 15. If they're around 50, 100 bucks, you can offer maybe a bit less. So just gonna give you that tool. So if you're ever looking for trading cards in the future, I would say that's your best bet. Jesse, are you ready to hop into Habs versus Devils? A little pre-game preview, which we haven't done in a while. I'm excited.
This is a big game for the Habs tonight. They are hungry for that W. Let's get into it, brother.
Let's get into it. So let's jump into this. So the first thing I wanted to show is the scoring leaders for both teams. And right now, the Devils have played a couple more games. They played 15. Of course, they started the season over in Europe in Czechia. They had that incredible game there. Right now, Dawson Mercer leading the team in plus-minus with +10, which is really nice for a nice Newfie boy. But the big story, I think, of this game, there's a few things. I know the Devils have played a couple more games, but a lot of their guys have more points than a lot of guys on Montreal, despite them being about the same level offensively, as we've saw in that earlier graph. But I think one of the big stories here is Hischier at 10 goals on the season in 15 games, and Caufield at 10 goals in 13 games. I think this is going to be a battle. I think these guys are going to be going down to the wire this season. Now, I don't know which of them is going to stay consistent throughout the year. I would love to bet Caufield because I think his shot is better than Hischier, and Hischier had a really hot start. Caufield did too. He slowed down slightly, but still 10 goals in 13 games is crazy. I know a lot of people are talking about Kovacevic too. He's doing great in the Devils. Happy for him. But Jesse, I think that's one of the big stories tonight. I'm kind of calling a goal for them each. Now, you guys can go rewind, pause, take a look at the leading scorers. The plus-minus for Montreal is not looking good, but at the same time, Jesse, Montreal has some really solid production, and I think it's been very balanced between their top three of Suzuki, Caufield, Slav, even if Slav's not on the first line today, and then Matheson and Hutson.
Absolutely. Players sometimes say that they don't look at all the numbers all the time, but that's not true. They do. It matters. They know which games that they're going to really get up for. Cole's a super competitive guy. One thing that I love about him, Josh, and I want you guys to let me know in the chat, let us know, did you guys see the same thing? I saw Cole getting a couple chances last game, and whenever he didn't score on that, you would see him on the bench, and he'd be going over the play again. You could tell he wanted that play back. He wanted to score. He wants to get every single goal that he can get. He is so competitive. And that was a big thing for me, kind of losing that game. See where his mind state is at. What's his state of mind? And for him, he's hungry. He wants to get better. Even though he's playing well so far, he wants even more. And just to see a really engaged and hungry Cole Caufield where he wants to succeed. He wants to do his absolute best. His passion right now is really lighting a fire for the Montreal Canadiens. So I expect, them to kind of go head to head in this game, and you have to feel like Cole's due for a goal in this one.
Oh yeah, I think so. And I mean, the power play, they were rolling to start the season. They've been got a bit cold recently, so we'll have to wait and see how they bounce back. But yeah, like I love that from him, because you know that he knows he can score pretty much any time. There's a couple times he's missed the net. This season he could have 15 goals if everything bounced his way, you know. But the other guy I got to shout out to, the guy who's second on the team in goals, and that's Brendan Gallagher. We talked about him a bit earlier, so we're not going to dive too much into it. But second on the team in goals with 5 goals in 13 games. I'm going to do some quick math, because he's played every game. So let's just go to the calculator, because that's the kind of thing you can do in a live stream. I wouldn't do this in a regular video, or would I? 82 game pace, Jesse. Brendan Gallagher's currently on 31.5 goal pace. So 31 or 32 goal pace. For a Brendan Gallagher that so many people have said is washed up so many times, that pace is kind of nutty to me.
He's done it before, right? And that's the Gallagher that we really know and love. Like, for me, it's just, I don't know, players like that have that skill, but again, are bringing that heart. Like, we have to really appreciate players like Brendan Gallagher, because there's not everybody in the NHL on your team that's going to be like that. Like, if we had a team of Brendan Gallaghers, even if the skill isn't all the way there, with that heart, you're just doing better just by virtue of that. But obviously, you know, he's contributing as well offensively. And if there's one guy that kind of deserves it, it's him, you know, and it's all about staying healthy, because there's a thing about Brendan Gallagher is the reason that he's been able to score goals is if he goes to those high danger areas. He gets to the places where the majority of the goals in the NHL are scored statistically. He knows that. So a big part of that is obviously by going there, those danger areas, you get injured, right? Which can kind of take you off that track. But if he can stay healthy, this is a guy that can really net it for the Montreal Canadiens. I've had so much respect for him for so many years, you know, for so many reasons, for what he's really brought to this team. So, you know, he's right up there with me of like some of the players that I just want to see succeed the most. Every time I see him doing well there on the ice, you know that I'm just smiling, really proud of this player.
Yeah, me too. It's awesome to see what Gally has been able to do. A couple little quick things before I move on to another little graphic there. As someone noted in the chat, Juraj Slafkovsky is the only player who is a positive on this team. He's a +1, and he's only played in 10 games this year, but he has 8 points in 10 games and is a +1. I think that's good. Also, how does Gally only have 2 penalty minutes this season? That's pretty cool. He's usually at the center of these scraps, so staying very disciplined, which is really, really awesome. And you know, ignore Kirby Dach's league worst -14. We don't need to talk about that. But final little note here. Just Lane Hutson. Just wanted to point out that even though he's been on the PP2, of his 7 assists this year, 2 have come on the power play. Jesse, how long do you think it takes before Hutson moves up to that PP1? I mean, at this point, we're all just in agreement. Like, he should be there. Matheson today actually said, he's like, I got to learn some stuff from Hutson. But look, it seems to me that Marty is not ready to budge on that. And I kind of get it. But at the same time, like, the production Hutson's had with the minutes he's had in the power play, I think is pretty special.
I like Martin St. Louis, but there definitely would be a couple moves that I would make if I was in that position. One of them, you know, having Hutson on PP1. And like, you know, Matheson was talking about like, want to learn those shoulder fakes, those shimmy shakes from Hutson a little bit. I don't know how well that will take. I think that's like kind of very specific for Hutson, but there's definitely things that you can learn, and just showing his overall effect that he can have on the team. But just the fact for Matheson and a vet, you know, an assistant captain on this team, acknowledging that is a big thing, right? Because we all know what Hutson can kind of bring to the table. And obviously, I think that it's just a matter of time. But again, it's like, for me, you don't want to wait too long. I know it's a special player. Like, we're all surprised by the amount of production and what he's been able to do so quick. But certain time, you don't want to wait too far in the season. Like, we want to be in the mix. I think we need to put our best players in the best possible positions to succeed. We see like his zone entries, like he is leading all defensemen by a far margin. The reason why you put him on PP1 is, you know, you can gain the offensive zone so easily, which then correlates to more time in the offensive zone, which is obviously a direct connection to how many goals you're going to score on the power play. For me, it's pure mathematics. You need Hutson on there, the way that he can carry the puck and have him be the guy taking the puck in the offensive zone by default every single time, not him dropping off to Suzuki. Hutson, you know, a little bit of a smaller guy, but that's what allows you to kind of get in the offensive zone that much easier, right? He kind of sneaks in there. So I really hope that Marty doesn't wait. I would have to say I would be upset if we were getting at about 3/4 of the season. That still hasn't happened, because for me, that's just too far. Like, we're seeing 7 points in 13 games. Like, Hutson is not that far from being a point per game player. Like, I know he's actually just above, you know, 0.5, you know, points per game, but like, he's going to light up. This is with no goals yet. You have to feel like there's a statistics where it's like, I have to feel like Hutson's expected goals for are absolutely way lower than rather way higher, than they should be. It's like, it's going to regress where he's going to get his points. Like, absolutely, he's going to get his goals. He doesn't like his points even showing how much that he's bringing to this team right now. So for me, like, I don't know. I feel like he's doing everything. It's just, for him, he's worked on that defensive part of the game. He's shown he's really coachable. So for me, that's a big thing again in the good books, like with Martin St. Louis. Like, okay, and now once we know that your defensive game is good, maybe that's what St. Louis is waiting for, to kind of say, okay, now we're going to go in the PP1. We're going to kind of unleash you a little bit more. But Lane Hutson knows that it's a progression, and he knows you got to hit every base along the way, and that's what he's doing, right? So he's absolutely going to get there, and by his play, you have to think that he's going to help accelerate that even further.
I think so too, and honestly, his defense has looked really good recently. Like, his back checking has been so good. He's made a couple of plays where his stick has gone in there. He's won a puck battle. He's deflected a shot in the slot. Like, he's done some really good things, and like you said, 7 points in 13 games. That's a 44-point pace for a guy who's not playing PP1. He's getting a lot of minutes, to be fair, but he's not playing PP1, and he's on a team who's only 2 players that have 5 goals this season are Cole Caufield and Brendan Gallagher. Like, there's not that many primary goal scorers on this team. There's not many goals, so there's not as many opportunities to get points. For what Montreal has done, I've been very, very impressed. Really good. I want to go to the chat before we move on to our final little thing here, which is a history of the game. Joseph saying, Galley's healthy and effing hungry, little pit bull. Super good day. Good morning. Welcome into the stream. George saying, never realized Galley's been staying out of the box this season. 100% very true. And I also know someone asked about Demidov again. Just going to say, what happened with Demidov? The big thing is, in case you missed it earlier, we are closing out the stream in just a minute here. The big thing with him is that he got over 2 minutes of power play time today, and he played almost 16 minutes today, despite getting a penalty and despite Kuznetsov not playing. So it's a big uptick in power play, big uptick in reliance on him to get them back in the game, which was the big story. Final thing, Jesse, last 10 games versus the Devils. I almost put no stock into this because I truly think hockey is so random in a lot of ways. And you go back to these 2020 teams and you're like, well, what even is the input here? But the last few games have been fairly close. Montreal, they're 4-6 in their last 10 versus New Jersey. Loss 4-3 last February. A win 3-2 last January. A loss 5-2 last, October, and then that's it last season. So they went 1-2 last season. I'm actually, Jacob Markstrom has not had a super strong start to the season. I can see a world tonight where Monty puts up a solid game. We get a Caufield power play goal. If Montreal's power play clicks against New Jersey tonight, Jesse, and Markstrom maybe lets in one weak one, I actually think this could be a nice sneaky win versus a really solid Devils team.
There's positive signs. I'm looking for a strong defensive game while picking our spots offensively and kind of going that, knowing that we need to shore up the defensive game as the numbers showed as we went into. But because they've been addressing that, knowing what they need to do and kind of building off of that, for me, that gives a lot of hope. Sometimes you're going to lose games you kind of deserve to win, but that's definitely going to balance out as well. So I'm expecting a strong showing, even though, the bookmakers have the Devils at a 63% chance to win. Like, historically, Markstrom, obviously he's been with the Flames the majority of his career, hasn't been amazing against the Habs all the same. He's been .500. He's been 8-8 against the Habs there. So there's a little bit of hope that, obviously, we know that Markstrom's a very good goalie, but, there is some history kind of showing that we can definitely get some W's against him there. So I'm really looking for this team to really build upon what they've done already. Nick Suzuki, I like that he's hungry. He knows sometimes that even though he's getting the points, that he can insert himself even more. I think he knows his time when he really kind of needs to take control of the puck a little bit more, challenge 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, and the offensive zone, being a little bit more aggressive there. So I fully expect that from Nick Suzuki as it goes on. He's kind of like, our sleepy captain in a lot of ways, right? Where sometimes we think that, he's just calm, he's chill, but at the right time, if we look back from last year, like, how many times did Nick Suzuki take us out of our chairs? Like, he's taken over games many times. To think that he's not going to do so again this season, I think is foolhardy. He's going to rise to the occasion. He's going to be that 30-plus goal scorer for this team. So that means he's got a lot of goals left in him this season. So I expect, obviously, to be a big showing from him. Josh, are we getting that first goal in the NHL from Lane Hutson tonight?
I predicted it. I said I predicted it to be against Calgary, and then it didn't happen. And so, you know what? Why don't we just make every day Lane Hutson Day and say every day, every game, I'm predicting that Lane Hutson's going to score his first goal. I'm saying it's going to happen today. It's going to happen on Jacob Markstrom, and it's going to be on the power play. That's my big call, Jesse. Power play 2, because Marty's still not ready. But I think, what about you? You in agreement or no? Are we just going to say it every game?
Well, I think that like obviously his offensive chances just show that it's coming. He's rung a couple posts. He's been unlucky, right? Where it's like, yeah, with the amount of chances you get, like obviously the amount of assists that he's got, you have to feel like some of those points are obviously, he showed that he can get so much points. So obviously some of those points are going to be goals at the clip that he's doing it. You have to expect a goal every game from Lane Hutson. Like I expect a point basically from him every game. Slav is starting to shoot more, which is a huge sign. Very easily could have had a goal last game, did get a point there. I want to see Slav. Like he's one of my favorite players. Like even going back to last year, I was excited for every game just to see like what he's going to do on the ice. I have to say, I want to get that excitement back. Like I'm still always excited to see him play. But again, where it's like, I'm looking at the game and like Slav is like one of the reasons why I'm most excited because he's just going to do something phenomenal in that game. I believe that he has that ability. He's going to get back there. We see Dach's confidence is growing as well, which is absolutely huge for this team, almost underrated of how important like a Kirby Dach really firing all cylinders completely changes the complexion of this team, even without a Patrick Laine. So that's going to be a big thing kind of looking forward tonight. Can he build upon a solid performance and knowing when to kind of shoot in the offensive zone? You want to get the best chance you can, but sometimes it's about like, do I make that other move and risk losing the puck, or am I in the slot and I just let her rip? So I want to see sometimes, even just for beginning, just shoot, get that puck on the net if you're Kirby Dach, and you're really going to build on that from there.
For sure. Like, that's the thing. Kirby's going to get there eventually. Like, there's a lot of guys that are going to end up clicking. As Simon Desjardins sends in a super chat, Jesse, there's a lot of guys I was going to spam the lane train animation there. We got a super chat just simply saying, Slav will score tonight. So to follow up the super chat, we got Slav. So I would love for that. You know what? How about we get like a 5-goal night for Montreal? We get Slav going, we get Kirby Dach going, we get Lane Hutson's first NHL goal. We get everything happening. I would absolutely love that. By the way, I saw a trivia question in chat. Who was the Habs starting goalie after the Patrick Roy era? Has to be Jocelyn Thibault, right? That's the guy who they traded, who they got after Patrick Roy. I assume that's who he's referring to. Is that the right? I'm seeing some Jose Theodore, Stéphane Fisset.
I was just a little baby at that time, but hey, Thibault, did he get his chance right away there?
I'm pretty sure he was like straight up the starter for like a season or two. I thought he started like 50 games or something for them, like back-to-back years. Like for some reason I remember him being good. Anyway, we'll see if the trivia question gets answered. I saw one person say Thibault. I saw Bob say Thibault. That's probably my answer. We'll see. I mean, look, Jess, you were a baby. I wasn't even. Well, I was alive while Thibault was playing for Montreal, but not during the trade. So anyway, we got all that. We got Lane Train is coming for you. He's going to score his first goal tonight. That's our big prediction, guys. That's going to do it for the stream. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Really appreciate the kind of last-minute support on this last-minute stream. We really appreciate all of you for being here. And if you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel, guys. We got stuff like this coming every single day. And thank you so much for being here every day with us. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.